The East Tennessee State University football season wouldn't be complete without Bucky the Buccaneer. Bucky has been the face of ETSU for decades, but how did a seafaring buccaneer become a mascot in the mountains? ETSU's Archives of Appalachia director Jeremy Smith said there's a legend wrapped up in the truth. A legend says Bucky's origins trace back to a French buccaneer named Jean-Paul Le Buc, who scouted the region for a place to hide his treasure. He hid it in an underground river named Pirates Creek.
That is probably not true. There's no historical evidence that anyone named Jean-Paul Le Buc ever existed as a pirate or a buccaneer. There's no evidence that there's a Pirates Creek underground anywhere in the region, but it's a fun story.
The more likely story? That students at ETSU's normal school had a mascot naming contest in the mid-1930s, where the Buccaneer emerged as the winner. While former athletic coach Gene McMurray is credited with giving the school the Buccaneer name, it wasn't the first school in the region to claim the Buccaneer name.
A student by the name of Clyde Wayman, who was on the football team, he was here from 1934 to 1938. He had played high school football in Jonesboro. One of the teams that he played was Big Stone Gap High, that no longer exists, but their nickname was the Buccaneers in the 1920s, 1930s. And so he would have probably played against them, and he is credited with proposing the name.
Local historian Pat Cooper said the Buccaneer name appears as far back as 1926 in Big Stone Gap, 9 years before the Buccaneers sailed into ETSU.
So as far as we can tell, this was the beginning of the Buccaneers. It could have been a little before that, but the first time it was mentioned was in 1926.
Although there isn't a solid connection between the two schools, the Big Stone Gap Buccaneer memorabilia looks a little familiar in its blue and gold flair.
And we were blue and gold, the same colors as East Tennessee State, which, you know, I always wondered why we were called Buccaneers, because I thought we are not near the water.
That's where the trail of the Appalachian Buccaneer goes cold. But Smith said it probably boils down to the imagination of students at the time.
I would imagine most students here in the 1930s had never seen the ocean. It wasn't exactly close at the time, and so they thought of something exotic, something somewhat dangerous, and something that would intimidate their opponents when they took the athletic field.
Bucky hasn't been the only face at ETSU's athletics throughout the decades. Before the Buccaneer, students would cheer for the teachers as the football players entered the field. And the 1950s saw a live goat on the field for games.
Starting in 1950, ETSU, East Tennessee State College at the time, had a live animal mascot for a while, Captain Kidd, a goat. The students would kind of affectionately call him Billy the Goat. But he was Captain Kidd.
Captain Kidd retired in the 1960s, around the time Bucky got his name. In the 1980s, he got his sidekick, Pepper the Parrot. Pepper attended games with Bucky until 1990. But since then, Bucky's been flying solo.
Bucky's undergone some minor transformations since 89 or 90. Every 5 or 6 years, he seems to be redecorated in a new costume and a new outlook. But I think Bucky is here to stay.